The measuring stick just changed around here, buddy. You're looking at it.
You are now listening to the Outsiders Podcast, the most exciting and hard-hitting show on the net. And now, bringing it hard as always, here are your hosts, Clint Schweitzer and Noah Groniger.
Well, no, it's that time of year. Bowl games, holidays, family, food, togetherness. Oh, forget it. We just want to watch some football.
Football!
We are talking BCS. Today, with you, the Outsiders Podcast, Clint Schweitzer, Noah Groniger, we're going to be breaking down some of the games individually. We got J.J. Birden, former Oregon Duck, going to come on talking about the Fiesta Bowl.
Corey Mays, former Golden Domer, Notre Dame.
Talking about the big one.
Yep, the National Championship, BCS.
And then former Auburn receiver Jeris Mcintyre coming on to talk about the SEC end of things, and of course, all things going on with the Auburn Tigers, who are not in a bowl game this year, but Jeris is going to be talking about Gus Malzahn, the hire there, and the Alabama side of things. We know that I don't think that he's going to be cheering for the Crimson Tide, but it remains to be seen. The SEC blood brothers tend to stick together, so even though there's a rivalry there, we'll see if he's on board with Notre Dame or not. But I tell you what, it's going to be interesting. I think a lot of people immediately just writing off Notre Dame, saying it's over. Alabama rolls, and I think that it's. I think I could see why that's being said. Alabama's dominant, but they're human. They've lost the game. They lost at home to Texas A&M. Notre Dame is the undefeated team here. I think Notre Dame makes a game of this.
I do too. I mean, they've got a tough defense, and I mean, people might blow off Notre Dame and say that Alabama's too physical, they're too talented, they're too big, and they're just going to dominate this game. But that's what people thought when they went into Texas A&M. And Johnny Manziel and that offense, they got the job done, and now it's Notre Dame's turn. Manti Te'o's, he can cause some fumbles, get some interceptions. He can lead that defense and make it a kind of messy, sloppy game like Alabama versus LSU was.
You know, I like this. I think that there should be more hype going into this game. I don't feel like the game is hyped enough because all of a sudden I'm feeling a little nostalgic. I'm feeling like I was as a kid, as a 9-year-old in 1993 coming out of the theaters after I just watched Rudy. And knowing my life, I've been to Notre Dame 3 times in my life. I've been on that field. I have touched the Play Like a Champion Today sign. I have been to I like Notre Dame. I like them as a program. I think it's an enigma because in college football, this is a private school with 10,000 students, and as a football mecca, and they're back. Unbelievable. They were, as a program, were dead and gone. They went through Tyrone Willingham, Charlie Weiss. It just wasn't looking well. But Brian Kelly comes in, turns it around, and I'm looking forward to this. In Alabama, one of the most traditional powers. Nick Saban looking for his 3rd title in 4 years. And what will that mean for his career? His wife has stated that he has lost his luster for winning. It doesn't even feel the same anymore winning at Alabama. They're so good.
I've got to give credit to Brian Kelly, head coach of Notre Dame. When that hire was made, I had watched him coach at Cincinnati, and I wasn't too impressed. I didn't think that was the right hire for them. And shows how much I know. They believed in him. He must have had a great interview. He proved it at Cincinnati. I just didn't think he could carry that over to Notre Dame and turn things around after Willingham and Weiss messed things up there. But Brian Kelly's proven me wrong, proven lots of people wrong, and he's getting the job done.
Noah, he woke up the echoes. He shook down the thunder. The Irish are back, Jack, and they're playing for the BCS championship. And I'm excited about it because they're playing a traditional power in Alabama, a team built by Bear Bryant. And a program that has risen from the ashes once again. Before Nick Saban got there, they were a team struggling, barely making bowl games. But now they are back on top as the most dominant program in college football right now. The SEC playing for their 7th straight national championship, the most dominant conference in college football. I'm so excited for this game coming up. Of course, takes place like a week after New Year's, so I do not like the scheduling and the placement of some of these games because we have no New Year's Day anymore. I used to have New Year's Day to chill out, watch football. Not going to be doing that this year.
Yeah, I agree. The scheduling is messed up. It's way too late. These games need to be going on earlier. Like you said, around New Year's Day, if not before, a little bit after Christmas, give you something to do after you're done playing with all your goodies, your toys that you get on Christmas Day. And I'm just really looking forward to this game. I think the everlasting image from this game could be if Manti Te'o and Eddie Lacy meet in the hole and see that collision.
Yeah,
I mean,
nice.
That'll be great to see.
That's a good thing to bring up. I love Eddie Lacy and what he brings. He's a big, powerful runner. I love T.J. Yeldon also out of that backfield, and A.J. McCarron, just a winner. But for Notre Dame, that defense.
And Amari Cooper, their stud wide receiver who's taken over for Julio Jones, who's moved on. So
let's talk about a couple BCS games that should not be taking place. I'll tell you what, for the first time in a long time, I am not very pumped up for the Rose Bowl. I think, Stanford and Wisconsin, yeah. Northern Illinois, Florida State. Give me a break, BCS. Nobody wanted Northern Illinois in there. I know they qualified technically. Georgia was seconds away from playing for a BCS title game, 5 yards away, and they're shipped out, not even in the BCS. We'll see you later.
Yeah, that's a joke, especially with the Northern Illinois being in there against Florida State. Florida State should dominate them. That'll be an uninteresting bowl, unless Northern Illinois can prove us all wrong and make it a game.
Well, the +4 is going to take effect here in a couple years, and I think that's going to alleviate a lot of this. But, we're just excited about these games. Let's get to
I want to get to Stanford, Wisconsin.
Boo.
Why? Come on. Brett Bielema is gone, so everybody's kind of expecting Stanford to carry that game. It'll be interesting to see if Wisconsin, losing their head coach to the University of Arkansas, can rise up and make a game of this with an interim head coach.
Yeah, Stanford's been a good team. They beat Oregon. I think right now they're playing some of the best football there is, and I think they're going to win that game. But let's get into the Fiesta Bowl. We're going to bring on our first guest, which is J.J. Birden, ex-Oregon Duck, ex-Kansas City Chiefs receiver, and we're going to get his thoughts here on the Fiesta Bowl. Okay, guys, so nice. We had to have him on twice. J.J. Birden is joining us, the ex-Oregon Ducks receiver, of course, ex-Kansas City Chief as well. J.J., how in the world are you doing, my man, out there in that warm weather?
I'm doing pretty good. It's it's winter time, but it's nice to see the sun out here in Scottsdale, Arizona. But it's all good. A bit of a change from the rainy, cold weather up in Oregon, so I'm good.
Yes, you were in Oregon. You've been in Kansas City. You've experienced some treacherous winters, and it's probably why you escaped out there to lovely the Valley of the Sun, right?
Absolutely.
Well, JJ, of course, we've been talking about the BCS. We're talking specifically Oregon and Kansas State, your alma mater, the Oregon Ducks, coming into this game. One play away from being in the BCS title game. I mean, give it your thoughts just on this Ducks team in general and how devastating it was to not quite get into the BCS title game, but playing out here at the Fiesta Bowl is still a good draw.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really disappointing. I mean, Oregon, I felt this was probably the best Oregon team I'd ever witnessed. Just the way that they were dominating and the way they were playing, and just, they had a setback against Stanford. Stanford had their number. They had their number, and Oregon just wasn't able to adjust. And it's unfortunate because, they were, 4 points away from being in a national championship game. But, at least they're in the Fiesta Bowl. They're playing against Kansas State, which is going to be another great game to watch. But I'm expecting the Ducks to really show up for that game.
All right, we have a two-part question from our Facebook page from one of our fans, Frank Farias III. He wants to know who has the quarterback advantage and who has the defensive advantage.
Oh, let's see. Well, God, that's a great question. Both of the quarterbacks are very, very good. But obviously, I'm going to swing towards, our Oregon quarterback. I think for the simple fact that he's got that incredible offense that really can keep the defense off pace and keep the tempo moving up. And, I think the defenses are pretty balanced, but I am more concerned with Kansas State being able to stop Oregon's offense rather than Oregon's defense being able to stop Kansas State's offense, because when you get up against Oregon's fast-paced offense, especially in the second half, and you're not used to seeing that, defenses are definitely caught by surprise.
So talking about Oregon's high-powered offense, does this game come down to K-State's ability to keep that offense off the field with their slow, methodical pace, ground-and-pound style with Colin Klein?
Excellent. I love the way you said that, and that's how I feel. K-State, I think they're going to get theirs, but they're playing against the Ducks. These guys will score in a minute or two, and they'll keep the game going, and they'll push the pace, and then they're always even a faster team in the second half. So I think K-State's going to have to put some points on the board because it will be a high-scoring affair, at least from Oregon's side.
Well, I'll tell you what, JJ, we got two guys in that backfield for the Oregon Ducks. Barnes being one of them. I don't even know if you in your prime could have beat a guy like Thomas or Barnes in a 40-yard dash. I mean, this is the most speed I've ever seen, maybe on an Oregon team. I mean, give us your thoughts on those two running backs. And obviously, I'm only kidding because you, of course, could beat both of them in a 40. But
well, I'll be honest with you. Hey, guys, I'll be honest with you. At my prime, I don't think I could have beat D'Anthony Thomas. I don't know. I mean, maybe Barner. I've seen him ride, but Thomas, I don't know. The times he ran in high school in the 200, I could never run that fast. I mean, he was a world-class high school athlete, so I'll give him that. But I like the talent of those guys. I think they're studs. I think that Barner is definitely capable of playing at the next level. With D'Anthony, I'm hoping that he gets some really good advice. I'm hoping that he's not one of those that kind of reads the sports clippings too much and decides to bail out of Oregon real early, because he's really got to find what his niche is going to be at the next level, because he's starting to get into his groove at the college level, but he's not a true running back and he's not a true wide receiver. So I think in the next 2 years, if he stays at Oregon, he should kind of figure out what his fit is for the NFL. But right now he's at Oregon and he's definitely a dangerous weapon, just like Barner. It's so nice to have that dynamic duo back there.
And of course, you, of course, played at Oregon, during the 1980s, a time when Oregon was just starting to come on the map. Right now, Oregon, with the branding, with the Nike, with the uniforms, the recruiting, Chip Kelly, all those things, Oregon has certainly taken off. I mean, give us your thoughts on this uniform situation. It's something that comes up a lot, talking about Oregon. But do you prefer kind of the traditional style that kind of you guys wore with just, the traditional green with like yellow pants? Or, I mean, do you feel that since this is such a big recruiting tool and has become so synonymous with Oregon, that it is, in fact, a really good thing for the school?
Well, for me, personally, guys, I like it. I've always been a Nike guy, for one thing. I can remember wearing Nikes in high school and then being sponsored by them in college. And in my NFL days, I've always liked Nike. I've always appreciated Phil Knight. And I love the style of the Ducks. That's kind of my style. I'm not your traditional kind of old school unis or whatever. I like the variety. I love how they mix it up. I love how they're trendsetters. And what's nice is, though, they're backing it up on the field. Now, it would be different if they were getting killed by everybody and coming out with different uniforms, but these guys are backing it up, so what can people say? But I do know from a high school standpoint, when you're being recruited and you're going to colleges, you are always looking for something different about the college you're going to, because most of the colleges are pretty good or whatever, but if they've got something different that stands out, they're going to swing in that direction, and Oregon has that. Whether it's uniforms, it's facility, you name it, it's going to be attraction to a lot of different high school athletes.
Well, what are your thoughts on the rumors swirling about Chip Kelly taking an NFL job with the Eagles or Chiefs, the two teams being mentioned right now, as NCAA violations loom over Oregon, much like what happened with Pete Carroll before he left USC to take an NFL job with the Seahawks?
Yeah, I've kind of come to the realization that he's probably going to bail. I think even before whatever has happened with the sanctions and the penalties, let's just put that aside. I think he's going to go anyway, and we were fortunate to get him another year, but I think he is probably the perfect coach to go to the next level and to truly try the spread offense. I'd love to see how he could do at that level, because many people say you can't run at that level, but he's a coach that's been very, very successful with it in college. I'd love to see what he could do at the next level, but odds are, he's bailing. We've been spoiled long enough. I don't think we're going to hang on to him much longer, so I think he's going to leave.
Of course, we got the big Fiesta Bowl coming up at University of Phoenix Stadium. They have taken it out of the traditional Fiesta Bowl there in Tempe, so it's in your backyard this year, JJ. Does that mean that you will be in attendance at this game, or how's that going to work for your holiday plans?
Yeah, I'm looking at my ticket right now, guys.
Ah, all right.
It's right here. And it's amazing too, guys, because as a college athlete, I never went to a bowl game. As a NFL player, I never went to the Super Bowl. I always had a chance, but I just, I never went. And all the years post NFL career, I never went to a bowl game. And I moved to Phoenix, and I just said, you know what? I got to go to a bowl game. And the first year I moved down here, the Ducks go to the national championship in my backyard. So I go to that game, and then here we are 2 years later. They're going to be here for another game. So I'm feeling pretty good about the move down here to Arizona.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, we've also been kind of getting some questions on our Facebook page talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. We of course had you on a couple months ago, spanning your entire Chiefs career, but we've had a really a big question from our guy Shane Williams as we're talking to JJ Birden guys and of course ex-Chief. We've been talking about the BCS, but here we go talking a little NFL because we know JJ's always up for that. He wants to know specifically, and we know you remember specific plays just like we do, talking about a big play which took place, this was against the Pittsburgh Steelers, about how you made a big play taking that game over. I mean, that was in the playoff game, of course, in '93. We did not, I don't think, got into that last time. You made the catch to, I believe, catapult back into that game, and just kind of what your memories were of that.
Yes, I vividly remember that play. That was the sluggo route. That was the slant and go. I remember we were game planning Rod Woodson, who, great cornerback, but Rod was known to bite on double moves, hitch and goes, or hook and goes, or slant and goes. So we practiced that all week, and Coach said, in the right situation, you're going to run the sluggo. And I remember we were behind, and, we needed kind of something to really shift the momentum, and we had the play called next, and Montana got hurt. And Montana came out for one play. Craig comes in, and I look at him. He goes, "We're still running it." And I'm like, "Great." And I remember running the sluggo and thinking, "Okay, Rod, he's in the perfect, technique. He's inside. He's got a bite on it." And when I took the slant in, he bit all over, and I was like, "Oh, this is easy." And then Craig kind of threw it all around, and I had to dive for it. Got the ball, scored a touchdown, and I think that was kind of what really got us rolling. But yeah, I remember that play like it was yesterday. That was pretty exciting.
Wow, love the detail. Getting back to this bowl game, though, what are your predictions?
Well, I definitely think, I think Oregon's going to bring it. I definitely think K-State's going to be in there, but you're talking about a team that's a little bit upset because they know they should be in the national championship game. And because of, a setback against Stanford, I think these guys are going to bring it. So I'm expecting to see Oregon score up there in the 45, 50-point range, and I think K-State's going to get their share around in the 30 somewhere. But we'll see the Ducks celebrating after that victory.
And my gosh, one thing we failed to mention with regards to the Kansas State Wildcats, and I'm sure you know him all too well, Bill Snyder, just an absolute wizard of a coach. I mean, a guy that, I liken him to maybe a guy like, and I'm serious, a guy like in the movie A Beautiful Mind. I just picture Bill Snyder sitting in a laboratory, like drawing up X's and O's and then working every time. The guy's just an amazing coach, and I'm sure you can attest to that.
Yeah, I'm sure he has been studying the Stanford film well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm sure Oregon is already ready to make their adjustments. So it'll be a great game.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to it, JJ. And I'll tell you what, can't thank you enough for joining us. Let's catch up again soon because we've been definitely watching you and some of your vlogs talking NFL. So once these playoffs roll around, let's get you back and let's talk some NFL next time, my man, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you guys check out my NFL vlog. I just shot 2 more yesterday about the playbook, and and it's really come from the questions I've received over the years. Is people want to know what's more like the inside. So I'm trying to give them that personal touch. But it's been exciting using it to kind of connect with everyone, let them know what it's like to really play in the NFL.
Well, we've definitely been watching. It's been great insight, and we want to get you back on talking some NFL as the playoffs roll around. So let's definitely do that. In the meantime, enjoy the break and enjoy the Fiesta Bowl out there, and try to stay warm while you're at it.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate your time, and thanks for thinking about me. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next time.
Hey, sounds good, JJ. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
All right, bye now.
Awesome, as always, to hear from our guy, JJ Birden. He's going to be our eyes and ears at that game. He'll be in attendance watching his Ducks take on Kansas State. Going to be a great football game. My favorite non-BCS title game matchup of the entire BCS bowl season.
Yep, and he agreed with the question that I wanted to ask that I posed to him about how Kansas State needs to hold on to the ball and keep that high-powered offense off the field. And it'll be interesting to see if Colin Klein can make it happen.
That's going to be the interesting part of it. Okay, we're going to go talk BCS title game right now. We have a former Notre Dame Fighting Irish linebacker, Corey Mays, also played for the Chiefs, coming up.
Golden Domer.
Golden Dome, going to talk about the BCS title game. All right, continuing to talk college football. And right now with Corey Mays joining us, ex-Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Corey, we talked to you several weeks ago, and would you have imagined at that point that your Notre Dame Fighting Irish would be playing for the BCS championship?
Are you surprised? Are you really surprised right now? This is a great time for Notre Dame football right now. Every alumni is so proud right now. We're just so proud of those guys for working so hard and making it to the championship this year.
Well, Coach Brian Kelly was able to wake up those echoes. How was he able to do that? I mean, this is a team that I believe won 6 games a couple years ago and made the jump a little bit, won 8 last year. But how was he able to take that next step with this team, especially with quarterback problems in the middle of the year? They weren't quite sure with Tommy Rees, and then Golston stepped up and led them all the way.
Well, players have to play in critical moments of the season, and, it also was a little luck with Pittsburgh missing that field goal that could have sealed the game. But the players have stepped up tremendously, and one of the biggest things you can see is defense. And down the stretch, you really need defense, especially versus Alabama. This is going to be a huge game.
Well, I'm surprised, honestly, right now that there's not more hype going into this. You talk about 2 of the most storied programs in the nation. Notre Dame probably is going to open it as a big underdog. In your opinion, do you think that the Irish are going to be able to stay in this game with the defense that they've had and maybe make this a game, maybe win the game in the end?
I do believe. Actually, watching the SEC championship, Alabama versus Georgia, I saw both. There was a poor tackling team. Now, I'm sure Alabama will work on that, and we'll have plenty of time to recuperate and be prepared for the game. But I don't see this game. I don't see a situation where it's not competitive at all in this game.
Well, and here we come up this weekend. We have the big Heisman presentation. Manti Te'o, of course, is a finalist, along with Colin Klein from Kansas State and Johnny Manziel from Texas A&M. In your opinion, do you think Manti Te'o should win this Heisman Trophy, or should it go to one of the offensive guys?
I might be a little biased, but I feel like the kind of campaign that he's put together this year, it really should be between Manti and Mr. Johnny Football himself. Not knocking Colin Klein, but I just feel like, those are the 2 best players in college football right now.
Give us your best sell on why Manti Te'o should be the next Heisman Trophy winner.
Well, you can't spell. I don't have words for that. You edited it? No, we're live. Okay. I don't have an immediate answer. He's just the best player in college football. Bottom line. Bring out the tape. There's film there. He's crushing everybody. He's the best player in college football.
Well, talk about what this means to Notre Dame fans. You played in Notre Dame, of course, in an era where, again, trying to get back on track, and did there for a while, under Charlie Weiss, and before that with Tyrone Willingham. Just talk about, the fans and what they've gone through, not being in a national title game or winning one since 1988, and just how they're probably feeling right now, because I know you're still a fan yourself. So what is the mood right now of the Notre Dame fan base?
Everybody is so excited. Everybody just wants us to win, and and it feels great to be relevant now, and not just to be talked about. Kind of like the Cowboys, how every year there's great expectations for them, and it may or may not work out. But now, we are the number 1 team in the nation, and really, it's nothing that anybody can say because each week they've gone out and played every game hard, and it feels great to be number 1 again, first and foremost, and it feels great to just be winning, to be a winner.
Everyone knows Notre Dame has one of the best defenses in all of college football, but what's it going to take for this offense to move the ball and score against that Alabama defense?
I feel like you're definitely going to have to get that defensive line moving, and you're going to have to get runs that get up to the secondary, and you're going to have to keep the quarterbacks moving. I think that's the biggest thing is versus Alabama, who does have a somewhat of a style defense. You're going to have to get Golston moving around and put together a couple of different packages to keep that defense confused a little bit.
Of course, you talked about watching the SEC title game, Georgia coming within 5 yards of winning that game and maybe coming to play Notre Dame, but it is going to be Alabama. We saw so many teams ranked in the top 5, then the top 10 this year from the SEC. In your opinion, Is this the superior conference of college football, and is it even close, really?
I feel like the SEC is one of the top competitive conferences in college football. There's no denying that. I think sometimes it is a little overhyped, but I still believe that this is one of the superior conferences in college football, and it shows every year. They're winning national championships. Can't really deny it.
Well, give us your thoughts on this. I mean, we've seen conference realignment going on. We've seen so many teams moving. Notre Dame, of course, linked to that $1 billion television contract with NBC right now. But in your opinion, at some point in the near future, with all this realigning happening, should Notre Dame jump on a conference, maybe the Big Ten, or what do you think should happen there?
Quite honestly, I feel that Notre Dame should remain independent. It's the best of both worlds of you being able to play, being independent, number one, and then you're able to play a bunch of different teams from different conferences. Although this year they're kind of in the big during the ACC. You're in it. You play 5 teams from the conference. To me, you're in the conference, but I mean, I would love to see them just stay independent.
All right, Corey, it's that time. What's the score, and who is the new BCS champion?
I'd say this. Maybe it comes down to 4 overtimes. Notre Dame, 31, Alabama, 30.
There it is, guys. Hey, I would love to see such a result. That would be an epic college football national championship game that we've all wanted to see, and I think they've got it right. BCS, number 1 and number 2, Notre Dame and Alabama coming up here in January. Corey, thanks so much for joining us, talking some college football with us today. We'll catch up with you soon, my friend. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me on. You guys have a good one.
You too. Good to hear from Corey, as always, talking BCS title game. And, he seems to think his Irish have a chance. We do, too. We talked about it before we came on.
Yeah, Corey being a former linebacker, he's got belief in that the Golden Dome, and Manti Te'o, another linebacker, currently for Notre Dame, runner-up in the Heisman voting, and he thinks he can get it done.
Well, let's head to the SEC side of things, because Jeris Mcintyre, former Auburn receiver, played on a team that was undefeated but did not win the national title.
Quarterback of that team, do you know?
Oh, that was Campbell, right?
Jason Campbell.
Yeah, Jason Campbell was his QB back then. So
now they got Gus Malzahn, new hire for them, coming back after his stint as head coach with Arkansas State.
So let's head for an SEC take on the BCS title game with Jeris Mcintyre. All right, we are talking SEC football, and right now we have Jeris Mcintyre on the line, former Auburn Tiger. And Jeris, big week here for your Auburn Tigers. Let's start there. New coach Gus Malzahn is brought in from Arkansas State. He returns to Auburn. What are your thoughts, and what do you think the fans' thoughts right now on this big move are?
I know the fans are excited, very, very excited. Gus Malzahn was the offensive coordinator when we won the national title with Cam Newton, and we had a very high-power offense led by Cam, of course, and Michael Dyer, and some other veteran players, Terrell Zachary, Darvin Adams, just to name a few. But, he was offensive coordinator there, and he went on and left Auburn, went to Arkansas State, did some big things there, won the Sun Belt in great fashion, 45-0. So I think it's a great hire, man. I know there were some other people on the board that people want to see, but at the end of the day, with Gus being there, being familiar with the program, being familiar with the players that are there, I think it's a great hire, and we're excited that he's back on the plains.
What do you think went wrong with Gene Chizik, and how do you see Gus Malzahn coming in and changing the culture, and what do you think he can do differently to make this back into a successful program?
I don't really know what I can say what particularly went wrong. I know we were young. I know the quarterback situation, we didn't have an established quarterback, and I think in any level of football, from Pee Wee up to the NFL, if you don't have a quarterback that's established that can play and lead your team, you're going to be in trouble. And I think at Auburn, we have some guys that have bright futures, but at the time, if they're a true freshman, redshirt freshman, redshirt sophomore who haven't really been in the mix in SEC football, it's difficult. And I think that there with a mixture of 2 new coordinators, a young team, I just think it was bad. It was all bad all the way around. I don't want to put it particularly on Chizik. He was my coach, and I love Coach Chizik. And it's tough to put it just on Coach Chizik because the end of the day, the players go out there and play. And I've always been a believer of that is, the coach you coach and you lead and you're supposed to put the guys in position. But at the end of the day, if you're not producing on the field, then I put the majority of the blame on the players. And not to say that they're not trying. It's just that we're a young team, and we got to get developed, and we got to get some more veterans in there to be successful in the SEC the way we were in 2010. We won the national title.
One thing that's unreal about this, of course, people have to remember that just 2 years ago, Auburn won the national championship. I mean, it's almost unfathomable to think that, with Cam Newton, as you talked about earlier. Do you think, though, that how good Alabama has been the last few years, 3 out of 4, national championship appearances, do you think that in and of itself put pressure on Auburn to make this move and to try to get things going in the right direction to get on that level again? Because we all know Auburn can be on that level. They've been there.
Yeah, and I think that is. I mean, with the pressure in state, knowing, the Auburn-Alabama rivalry, the Iron Bowl, and with Saban being so good. And let's not forget, Saban's a great coach. I mean, he was at LSU. He won a national title. He did big things at Michigan State before he got to LSU. And he got to Alabama, and obviously he's done what, he showed that he is the best coach in college football right now. So, and then, yeah, of course that put pressure, I would say, on the Auburn Nation, and especially when you get beat down 49-0 to Alabama. I mean, and 42-0 in the first half. I mean, you're probably going to be out of it. The last few times Auburn's got beat down by Auburn was when Tuberville's last year and City's last year. So, for future Auburn head coaches, don't get killed by Alabama, and you may, save your job, because they don't play that in the state of Alabama. And I mean, rightfully so. You should never get beat down like that to your arch rival. But it happened, and hopefully we can shake it off and get back to where we were a couple years ago.
Well, how did things fall apart in 2 short years after winning the national championship, having Cam Newton win the Heisman, and having all that publicity? You'd think top recruits would be flocking to Auburn after all of that.
I think what people don't realize, and what I've told some fans that don't follow Auburn but not as closely. I mean, Cam was a senior. We had a senior center, 2 senior guards, a senior tackle, and a junior right tackle who got drafted by the New York Giants last year. And then we had 2 senior receivers, a power run game with one of the top running backs in the country at that time, Michael Dyer, and a whole bunch of seniors on our defense as well. So, yeah, it was a lot of Cam, but at the end of the day, we had a lot of senior leadership guys who had played at Auburn for 3 years and have been through the ups and downs, and to add a Michael Dyer to come into the mix with the Cam Newton around all those seniors. I think once that all left, and obviously don't let me forget about the Lombardi winner, Nick Fairley. Once all those guys left, we were back to square one, and I think that the people just with the perception of us winning with just Cam and all that, we lost 22 to 25 seniors on top of Nick Fairley and Cam Newton, who left early for the draft. So we lost pretty much the whole team. And we had some great recruiting classes, 4 and 5 stars all over the board, but they were still young, and they were forced to play early. And we did good in 2011. I mean, we won 7, 8 games, and that's doable, and that's feasible at Auburn. But with this year's debacle with no quarterback and Malzahn leaving as well, I think the mixture of Malzahn leaving with no quarterback hindered our offense tremendously, and that's what happens in the SEC when you have no coordinator, no quarterback. You go 3-9. So, it's tough, but hopefully we'll get back.
And, of course, talking about your former rival, Auburn's big rival, Alabama, getting ready to play in the BCS championship game against Notre Dame. They won an absolute gut-wrenching contest against Georgia this past Saturday. Talk about that game, what you saw, and how you think that this national championship game is going to stack up. I think a lot of people are selling the Irish short, and this might just be a game.
You know what? From watching the SEC championship, that was big boy football. I mean, that both teams ran the ball. Both teams, have physical offensive line, physical defenses. So we saw some passing, but for the most part, it was running downhill. You know what we're doing. You got to stop it. For all each side of the ball. No one's taking anything away from Georgia and Gurley and their power run game as well. But Alabama did the same thing, ran it down their throat, and had more will. And that's why they're in the national title. But, I have a lot of respect for Georgia because, to me, those are the best 2 teams in the country. And sometimes I'm a little biased with the SEC, but watching those two teams, I think those are the two best teams in the country. Because at the end of the day, those two teams are going to be able to run the football on you at will if they want to. With the Alabama-Notre Dame matchup, I've seen Notre Dame play, and I think they have a dominating defense led by the the All-American, all-everything linebacker, which I think it is as advertised. But I think at the end of the day, the big game is Alabama's been in for the last couple of years. I mean, it's A.J. McCarron's second national title. I think his third. He was a backup the first one they won. So this is going to be his third ring if they can win this game. And with his experience and that power right game and the mastermind of Saban and Kirby Smart together having that much time to prepare for Coach Kelly's offense, I just think they're going to dominate them defensively, offense. It's going to be tough for them with that defense, Notre Dame. But I think at the end of the day, in the second half, they're going to wear them down, and I don't think it's going to be close. So, maybe I'm taking away from Notre Dame and being biased for the SEC, but I don't think it's going to be close. I mean, I think it might be a 20-20 game, quite honestly.
What do you think is going to have to happen for Notre Dame to be able to move the ball in that Alabama defense? Brian Kelly is an offensive-minded coach, offensive guru. He's got a lot of time. Is he going to have to come up with a really special game plan to move the ball on Alabama?
Yeah, he is, because Alabama, like I said, with Saban being, I think he is the best defensive-minded coach in college football, and he's going to come up with something that they haven't seen, and they have a young quarterback. They have a run game. They have some running backs, Sierra Williams and some other guys, and they showed they could do a little bit against Southern Cal and moving the ball and the quarterback being efficient. But at the end of the day, I just think that he's going to have to come up with something. Definitely going to have to be something different that Saban hasn't seen at all, because he's a guru at figuring out what you're going to do and stopping it. And I think that's what's going to happen.
One thing I definitely got to ask you about is we've seen some coaching moves in the SEC outside of Gus Malzahn coming back to Auburn. We have Kentucky going in a new direction, Tennessee going in a new direction, and to me the most interesting aspect of this entire quote-unquote off-season so far has been Brett Bielema splitting Wisconsin for Arkansas. Is this just a case of the SEC is just that much better than everybody else? Everybody wants to come here and try to succeed?
Yeah, I think so. I think it has something to do, with the TV contracts, and everybody talking about the SEC and the money in the SEC and the exposure the SEC is getting. I mean, Wisconsin is a top-tier Big Ten team, but for you to just, leave them to come to the SEC to be able to play against the programs like Alabama and Auburn, LSU, and now the Texas A&Ms and the Floridas and the Georgias every year in, year out on a national stage where you're getting exposure and they're talking about you. You're on, the center of ESPN at all times. I think that is something that will persuade a coach who has a great job already to leave and come to the SEC.
What are your thoughts on this Kansas State Oregon Fiesta Bowl matchup?
I think it's going to be very interesting, man. Kyle Klein has improved tremendously. I remember watching him a couple of years ago, or maybe even last year, and just kind of looking with with his awkward motion and him kind of running the ball, and to see him this year come out and improve as a passer and show the way he can run with power and speed. It's going to be very interesting to see what Oregon can do with that kind of offense and with him, similar to when we had Cam in the national title. But I think it's going to be tough to ever stop Oregon. Hopefully K-State can slow the game down a little bit with the way they play, with Colin and him running the ball and making the passes he needs to make. But at the end of the day, I think Oregon, with that high-powered offense and that speed, maybe too much for K-State. I know they got defense, and I know they'll figure out what Oregon's doing, and they're probably starting right now practicing, getting ready for them. So they may come up with a plan, but I think stopping Oregon is almost impossible, quite honestly.
What's going on with this Orange Bowl right now? I mean, we got Florida State versus Northern Illinois, and over Northern Illinois making it over Georgia or Oklahoma. I mean, do you think that's a joke, like Kirk Herbstreit's been saying?
It's a joke. It's definitely a joke. I put it on my Facebook. It's a joke. I don't conference championship. That's all you could ask of them. And I think if they would have been Iowa, they would have had more of an argument. But they lost to Iowa, which was a pretty bad team in the Big Ten this year, or whatever the conference, whatever they're calling it now. So I think it's a joke. I definitely think it's a joke.
Well, Jeris, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. Of course, we'll get our +4 playoff kind of starting here in a couple years, but it's going to be really interesting. Jeris, we appreciate you talking some college football today with us, and we look forward to catching up with you again.
Congratulations on the Gus Malzahn hire.
Yes, congrats, and we'll look forward to talking to you, man.
All righty.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And a big thanks to all three guests today, J.J. Birden, Corey Mays, Jeris Mcintyre, all giving their time to come on and talk some college football with us as we head into the bowl season. Prediction-wise, if you're asking me for a score, if you're talking about the Fiesta Bowl, I like Oregon. I don't think they could score 50 like J.J. Birden predicted, but I think they'll score in the 30s, and I think they'll hold Kansas State maybe into the 20s. I think it'll be something like a 31-24, 31-27 type game. And
I've got it 45-28, so around there.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. But if you're talking BCS title game, you want to score. I don't know if I can give you a score. That's a tough one. I think you're going to be talking about a defensive game. I think anybody scores 24 points, they win the game. Maybe you say first one to 21 or 24 would win that. I'm going to say Alabama does win a close game, 21-17, but I think it's going to be close, and Notre Dame could win the game.
I've got it 20-13. So again, we're close on our score prediction here. I've got Alabama, obviously. Sorry, Corey and Te'o and Brian Kelly, but I just think that they're too physical. Of course, I thought that with Texas A&M, so you never know.
Yeah, you don't know, and this is what's great about these bowl games. And, if you want our prediction on Northern Illinois and Florida State, you're probably not going to get it. I just don't know if I have the energy. Or, Florida State wins.
I'll go 31-6 for you.
How about that? I just
can't
even acknowledge the fact that that they're in this game. I know I've brought it up twice now, so it's now on me. But Northern Illinois being in this game.
Stanford, Wisconsin. What's your prediction?
Stanford will be the winners. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, I got Stanford. Yep, definitely.
What happens
without Brett Bielema? It's just
the Rose Bowl doesn't look quite so good when both leagues are down. Although, if Nebraska was in this game, you'd have to worry about Stanford scoring 70, 80, 90, 100 points on them. So you're not going to have to worry about that, Nebraska fans. Stay home for the holidays. Just worry about that whooping Georgia's going to put on you in whatever situation that's going to be. But hey, we really appreciate you guys joining us, previewing BCS bowl season. We really appreciate it.
There's all kinds of bowls out there. We need an OutsidersPodcast.com bowl. How about that?
Yeah, hey, I'm in.
Actually, how about the OutsidersPodcast.weebly.com bowl?
Well, we'd have to get our full website name in there.
Yes,
that was a very good job, Noah, because I hope people will visit the website. Google us, Outsiders Podcast. All of our social networks are available. Hit us up on YouTube. Our YouTube channel's got all of our stuff archived for your viewing and listening pleasures.
Once again, huge thanks, J.J. Birden, Golden Domer, Corey Mays, and Jeris Mcintyre, former Auburn receiver. Great guests, great insight. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Enjoy your holidays and enjoy some football.